recorded.
Good morning, everyone. This is Bob Sifferman with Fort Worth SCORE, and I wanted to welcome you to our webinar this morning around the different resources available from the SBA for small businesses. Today, our webinar is based off of people are being muted as they come in through Zoom. If you're coming in via phone, I'd appreciate it if you could mute your phone. Secondly, the presentation we're going to walk through with you today is number one. You see the first slide here. We're kind of saying, hey, this is changing on a daily basis. It's not an hourly basis, trying to enhance the program. So we just want to give you that caveat. It is a presentation that SCORE Fort Worth and the Tarrant County SBDC have jointly put together based on input from SBA, input from our own sources, and input from other third-party sources. We believe it is as accurate as possible right now based on the changes. And our goal today is really to provide you the information for you to make the decision on what option you should pick going forward, whether it's from the loan perspective, unemployment, etc. So we'll try to give you that as much detail as possible for that. Again, this deck will be sent out to you after the presentation for all people that have registered on this webinar. You have the capability to either use on Zoom here, to use either the Q&A bucket to ask your questions and or the chat bucket. Our presentation will be about a half an hour of us just presenting the information. We'll try to answer as many people as we can on their Q&As. There's going to be 300 to 400 people on this call, so we're obviously not going to be able to get to everybody's question, but we'll attempt to answer as many questions as possible. So with that, let me kick off first by introducing ourselves and the panel and the people that will be presenting today. So number one, as I probably have already mentioned a few times for people who've been on earlier, I'm Bob Sifferman. I'm the from Fort Worth SCORE. I'm the chapter chairman for that chapter. SCORE is an all-volunteer organization that offers one-on-one mentoring. And in today's world, it's no longer face-to-face. However, we do it by email, by phone, and then obviously by technology such as Zoom via video. On top of the mentoring that we do, and we have 70 volunteers in Fort Worth, we also offer educational workshops throughout Tarrant County. And those workshops have now also gone virtually. So those are available too. Also attending with me, or helping us today, is Rodney Johnson, from the director of the Tarrant County SBDC. And I'm not sure if Linda Williams is on the call yet. I've started it without her. She's also from the SBA. Hopefully, if she's not on, she'll join us here soon. So Rodney, let me turn it over to you for an introduction.
Well, first and foremost, good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you're at. I am with the Tarrant Small Business Development Center, and it's a pleasure for us to collaborate with our partners, our resource partners, being the Service Corps of Retired Executives. At the SBDC, what we provide is we help companies, we help entrepreneurs either start their companies or grow their companies, or in today's terms, we're saying even to sustain your companies. The way we do that is we will meet with our entrepreneurs, and we will obviously, in these days and times, it's a virtual meeting, but we have advisors that meet with you one-on-one, and we help you with everything from marketing plans to business plans to financial analysis. We also help you extrapolate data from various databases and help you create a plan going forward that will help you accomplish your objective. If you want to visit with any of our advisors, all you need to do is go to our website, and we'll provide that at the end of this meeting. But go to our website and request a meeting, and one of our advisors will be happy to visit with you. And there are letters of confidentiality, so all of your information is held sacred, and we'll be happy to assist you in whatever way we can.
Thank you, Rodney. Linda, I see you're on board now. You want to introduce yourself?
I am here. This is Linda Williams. I'm an economic development specialist with the U.S. Small Business Administration. I office out of our Dallas-Fort Worth district office, and I am the SCORE liaison. My background is I was a disaster loan officer with SBA for about 12 years. So I have a background in that, and I guess my focus will be mostly on the EIDL application questions that we get at the end. So I'll step back to the back, and as I'm needed, just let me know.
Thanks, Linda. So again, this is again developed by SCORE Fort Worth and also the Tarrant County SBDC and from the SBA input. So it's our vision, it's our understanding of this program, and hopefully we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. We do have, as Rodney mentioned, we do have resources after this to, if you want one-on-one discussions, we have mentors set up to do that for you. So feel free to reach out. And as Rodney said, we'll provide that contact information at the end of this deck. So let me start off because there's a lot of confusion, and the beauty of social media is that you get a lot of information out quickly. The downfall of social media, and I see it quite a lot in the last 2 days, is that we're just throwing out bits and pieces of programs, what's there, who knows what. And it's really important, I think, as you evaluate your options here, that you evaluate the total picture and not just throw in or just pick up different points like loan forgiveness. What's this grant? So our focus today is try to put that all kind of together for you in regards to making some sense. And then you make the decision, what's the best way to do that. So let's start with the CARES Act 2020. As of Friday afternoon, the world changed drastically in regards to this act. So the law passed on Friday was the third of 3 bills. Congress is now talking about a 4th bill, but who knows where that goes. But specifically, we'll stay with the present. And the CARES Act 2020 is all inclusive, is very inclusive in regards to a variety of areas. So it covers, as shown on this graph here, it covers what's been talked a lot about is the individual direct payments the government's going to be sending to us based on our income, to large company assistant loans, to down at the bottom, well, let me go over to the top side, unemployment benefits, to actually enhancing our unemployment benefits for dollar amounts and the extended time to be covered under unemployment. And then down at the bottom is the support for our healthcare industry, and that being our hospitals, our healthcare providers. And as all individuals, I'm sure we can appreciate, these are really, the healthcare industries are really the warriors here in this war. And it's war maybe is a strong term to use, but it's an enemy that we're facing, and it's an enemy we don't necessarily 100% understand. And it's really the healthcare industry that's being the front lines on that. And we do really appreciate them. And we offer all our support to the healthcare industry and everyone that works within that industry. The focus of this particular session is around the area that was addressed in the CARES Act is around small business assistance. And that's what we really want to talk about right now. And in regards to that, to get a better landscape, ideally get a better landscape hopefully for you, is that the small business loan programs, in my mind at least, are divided into two areas. One is called the disaster loan program, or called the EIDL, is a terminology you'll hear a lot. So it's the EIDL program. And that comes into an area of the Small Business Administration that's been known for disaster loans in the past. So that's, for example, for hurricanes and tornadoes, et cetera, flooding. Today, this is a disaster that's not regional. This is more than countrywide, it's worldwide. So it's taken on a whole different life than ever before. But the EIDL, or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is what it stands for, is to address the disaster part of this virus that we're facing. So underneath that, we have the Economic Injury Disaster Loan application, and then we have something called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Emergency Grant. And we'll talk about that in more detail. On the right side of this, this chart here, we talk about is the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, you may hear the terminology being used. In the Paycheck Protection Program, the basis of that is what the SBA has been doing for many years, and that is the SBA 7A loan program. That's the basis of this program. Now, it has been supersized, for lack of a better term, based on Friday afternoon. So a lot of the guidelines, restrictions, et cetera, that were part of that program are changed drastically. Within that also, there's 2 other programs that have been released that are not as well known maybe, and maybe not that applicable depending on your needs. And that's called the SBA Bridge Loan and the SBA Debt Relief. And we'll cover those also briefly today. So I wanted to give you an overview of how everything tries to comes together and the differences and the origins of them. But now let's talk about, if we could, the specific comparisons between either an EIDL loan or the Paycheck Protection Loan. So let's look at this chart that we've developed, and it's talk about use of loan. In other words, the loans are only for the sole purpose to cover operating costs, such as employee salaries, mortgages, insurance, rent, and any other debt obligations. Now, we're just trying to give you an example of what some of those are, but look at your long-term debt, look at your liabilities, whatever, that's your operating cost. And that's applicable for both of the loans. The maximum loan amount for an EIDL is $2 million, and the maximum loan amount for the PPP is $10 million. The eligibility for these loans are small businesses, 501c3 nonprofits, and independent contractors under 50 employees. Now, and that's applicable for both of them. Not the caveat, but the difference is for the restaurant and hospitality industry that have over 500 employees could be still applicable. And for those people that on the call that might be in that industry that do have over 500 employees, I'd ask you to check the SBA website. And specifically in that website, there's you want to check for eligibility, and you want to check for the NACIS. So that's the industry classification code. It's a 6-digit code. And again, it's a North American industry classification system. And it will tell you based on your specific classification, being restaurant and hospitality, how large in regards to employee count is available for you to be eligible under this program. The other thing that's significant here is I want to point out is independent contractors are available, are eligible for both programs. So the gig economy, as we might know it, those contractors are also eligible to file. The one exception that I want to point out is agricultural firms are not eligible. So for the most part, that means farms and ranches are not. They would work through the USDA organization for their particular relief. Now, industries that support agricultural, such as equipment or services to that, they are eligible for this program. Something called aquaculture, which is growing farming of fish or plants, they are also eligible for this program. The term of the loan. Now, this is term of the loan for the EIDL is 30 years. As of yesterday, the SBA changed the term of the loan for the PPP, and it is now 2 years. Interest rates for EIDL is 2.75 for nonprofits, 3.75 for small businesses. As of yesterday, the SBA changed the interest rates for PPP to be 0.5%. Again, 0.5%. When you file for loans, the application for the EIDL goes directly to the SBA. Okay, so you file through the SBA website. When you file for a PPP, you need to work with either SBA approved banks, micro lenders, or community development lenders. In regards to funds disbursements, funds are directly from the SBA for the EIDL, and for the PPP is from the approved SBA approved vendor that you've worked with. Collateral is only required for the EIDL on loans over 200,000. And for PPP, there's no collateral required. For both of them, no fees to apply, no penalties to pay down loans for either one of them. And payments have been deferred for the EIDL for 1 year from date of loan origination. And for the PPP, they deferred from 6 months to 1 year, depending on your bank. So specifically on the EIDL, there's the site that I've got on the PowerPoint here. And again, for those people on the phone, we'll send this to you. But this is the exact link to actually go in and apply. Now, what has happened here as of Monday morning of this week, they threw out the old, the old application. It was causing crashes, it wasn't reliability, and they streamlined the whole system. So this is a whole new application. Very simple, it's a 3-pager. But go in and apply for your loan for an EIDL. The SBA, once you apply, the SBA will review your loan based on your credit worthiness and your repayment abilities. Again, the guidelines for acceptance on that have been loosened a lot because obviously the goal of the government is to get money into the economy as soon as possible. After application, you may be followed up with by the SBA case manager to ask for additional information before final approval amount of your loan is accepted. For locations that have multiple, for small companies that have multiple locations, really $2 million limit is for the business. It's not per location. And then the thing that was added Friday afternoon is as you apply for the EIDL loan, there's now a box there that says, are you interested in applying for the emergency EIDL grants? And you definitely want to say yes. So that's part of the loan application. Based on the financial information you provide, you can get up to $10,000 grant monies, and that will be determined by the SBA claim manager or case manager. It is supposedly going to be made available to you within 3 days of loans acceptance by the SBA. And the key here is it does not have to be repaid. Even if for whatever reason your loan gets refused, that dollar amount never has to be repaid. Other considerations under the EIDL. If when the SBA comes back to you and says, this is the amount of dollars you can borrow, you are under no obligation to take that loan, nor under penalties if you do not take the loan. So you can refuse it for whatever reason if you don't want it. After you receive the initial EIDL loan, you can ask for additional funds based on providing additional documentation back to the SBA. So you've got funds for a couple months and you say, I need more money, you can go back and reapply. If you are, for whatever reason, refuse an EIDL loan, you can reapply within 6 months of the original application. Question you get is, how is the EIDL loan amount calculated? There is no box that says I want like $10,000. You need to define or put into the application what your financial conditions are, what your operating expenses are, lost revenue that's being asked in this question, in this application, and then the SBA will determine based on the information you provide what amount of dollars they will loan you. If you have filed for the EIDL before Monday morning, please, if you're interested in getting the emergency EIDL grant, please refile again with the streamlined application that's on the SBA website, if you're interested in the grant monies. So with that, let me turn it over to Rodney to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program.
Okay, so the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, here are the details behind it. First of all, multiple employment statuses are applicable, whether you are full-time or part-time. All of those categories are eligible. The coverage period for this Paycheck Protection Plan goes from February the 15th through June the 30th. February the 15th through June the 30th. And what it is based on the average monthly payroll incurred during the 1 year before the date of the loan. So if you took 2019, whatever your total monthly payrolls were, and you divided it by 12 so you can get your monthly average, that is the number of your payroll costs. You would take that number and you would multiply that number by 2.5. And so you would be eligible to receive up to 2.5 times of your monthly payroll costs in this Paycheck Protection Program. It does max out at $10 million. So whatever your monthly average payroll times 2.5% is what your Paycheck Protection Program application loan amount would be. What's not included in this calculation is if you have employees that are whose compensation is over $100,000, this calculation will stop at $99,999. So our understanding is that over $100,000, that portion of it will not be included in the formula. So we do understand that up to $100,000 is included. Not included in the program additionally is going to be payroll and income taxes, as well as compensation for any employee whose primary residence is outside of the United States. and other programs like the qualified sick leave and the FMLA. These programs are not included in the Paycheck Protection Program. Okay. Next slide. So the amount of the forgiveness cannot exceed the principal amount of the loan. And I think that makes sense. So they cannot forgive more than what your loan was. So, but maybe equal to and up to the business operating cost during an 8-week, and this is a critical point here, cost during the 8-week period of time following the date of the loan's origination. So whatever day your loan was originated, that's a very important marker in this process. And for 8 weeks after that is what is critical for this whole process. I'm going to explain just a little bit as to why that's critical. If the whole purpose of the program is to try to incentivize you to keep your employees in place, to keep them in check, to keep them paid, to keep them supported, and to keep your business sustained. So if you're able to, from the day of the loan origination date and through the following 8 weeks, you're able to keep your employees in place, then at the end of that time, that period, you would be eligible for a loan forgiveness. And what is included in that? Payroll costs are included in that. Interest on real or personal property mortgages are included in that. Specifically and only if they were in place prior to February the 15th. What is not allowed is if you have a brand new startup business and you did not have the mortgage or actually any of the services, utilities, water, gas, transportation, so forth and so on, or even rent for that matter. If you didn't have any of those liabilities in place prior to February 15th, then it's not included in this program. But let me reverse that. If you do, whatever systems you do have in place for your rent, for your mortgage, for your payroll costs, for your water, electricity, so forth and so on, and they were established as your responsibilities prior to February 15th, then Paycheck Protection Program will apply to those. Next slide. All right, there are certain limits on the amount of forgiveness for which the loan will not be forgiven, which include the following. Amounts in excess of the principal on the loan will not be forgiven. Forgiveness will be reduced proportionally by any reduction in employees retained compared to number one, the prior year, or number two, the period between January 1st of 2020 and January 29th of 2020, as measured based on the average number of employees per month. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Forgiveness will also be reduced proportionally by any reduction in pay of any employees beyond 25% of their prior year's compensation, measured from the most recent full quarter prior to the origination date of the loan. Payroll costs eligible for forgiveness do not include compensation paid to employees in excess of $100,000, or it maxes out for an individual at $99,999. So going back to an earlier point, what I want to highlight is that the motivation behind the Paycheck Protection Program is to ensure that your employees are retained and maintained throughout this coronavirus period. So what they're going to do, what is being done, is to understand what is your head count at the beginning of the loan, and at the end of the loan, what is your head count? And if you're able to maintain that head count, then that's the eligibility for the forgiveness portion. As I understand it, and as we have been told, it is not necessarily based off of a specific individual or a specific person, but it is the number of people that you have in your employment. And are you able to maintain that number by the end of this period under consideration, at the end of this 8-week period? Next slide. If the business has employees whose wages comes from tips, meaning that if they work in the service industries, if they work in restaurants or in other service industries where a portion of their revenue or income comes from tipped employees, they will be they're allowed to be included in these calculations. If borrowers rehire, and this is a common question, that if borrowers rehire workers that have already been laid off due to the COVID-19 within 30 days of the enactment of the CARES Act, and realize the CARES Act was signed into law 6 days ago on last Friday, within 30 days, then they will not be penalized or have the loan forgiveness reduced by any reduction of employees or reduction in payments to employees, so long as the workers are rehired on or before June the 30th of 2020. The purpose here is to try to keep the employees employed, to keep you in position so that when the coronavirus threat passes, you're in position to be up and running and to get the economy, both at your business and in the county and in the state and so forth and so on, up and running as quickly as possible. The best way to do that is to maintain our workforce in place. Any loans that are not forgiven at the end of the 1 year is carried forward for a maximum of, it says 10 years and at a max rate of 4%. And the loan and the 100% loan guarantee remains during that term. However, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is what's being corrected to.
And Rodney, that was just changed, so that didn't get updated.
Okay.
It's,
So
it's 2 years
has
and 0.5%.
Yeah, that has been corrected to a max term of 2 years and a max interest rate of 0.5%. So that is a 0.5% and 2 years. So we'll correct the slides, but the information and the intel has been substantiated, has been validated. The term is 2 years at a max interest rate of 0.5%. Okay. Now, businesses that qualify for this under the Section 7A may also qualify for the loan forgiveness or portions of their disaster loan, as well as the borrower that qualify for small business loans will be also eligible to have only those portions of their loans forgiven for the amount spent during the 8-week period after the origination date of the loan for payments related to, again, I'm gonna go through this one more time. Payroll costs are eligible, mortgage interest payments on mortgages are eligible, rent payments are eligible, and all utilities are eligible. Okay, next slide. All right, a business obtaining a loan through the Paycheck Protection Program will not be able to use payroll tax credits available under the Families First Coronavirus Act for employee retention or the deferral of employer side social security payroll taxes. In essence, there's no double dipping between the Family First Coronavirus Act and the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, here's something that this question comes up quite often. Please note, you can apply for both an EIDL and Paycheck Protection Program. They are administered differently. EIDL, you go to the SBA website. Paycheck Protection, you go to an SBA approved lender or resource partner, but you are eligible to apply to both, okay? But the funds must be used for covering separate company operating costs. There will not be double dipping though, but you can apply to both of these services. Now, the U.S. Treasury Department has said as of 2 days ago that the Paycheck Protection Program should be ready by this coming Friday, in essence, by tomorrow. So it is expecting to try to roll this full program out. Your lenders, I know that for a fact that lenders are being educated and brought up to speed with what the current processes and methodologies are that they're going to be used. So they are in position, they're being prepared and ready as we speak, so that come tomorrow, they can start processing loans. What I would advise you to do is, by all means, start pulling together all of your documentation, start pulling together all of your data, which if you don't have, I'm going to encourage this right here, please, please, please ensure that you include your CPAs, your accountants, and all of those other people who are involved in your business, who understand the nuances of your business, so that when the application process opens up, you have all of your data and you're ready to go and present that to an SBA approved vendor. Now, one other thing I want to throw in here about the approved vendors that the SBA has stated, and that is that these are people whom you should already have a relationship with. So hopefully if you have a 7(a) loan, or if you already have a relationship with a banker, that banker is already on the approved vendor list. That's going to be important. And so spend today trying to confirm that they are on that list, or that they are approved to do to process these 7(a) loans or these Paycheck protection programs. Next slide.
So let's talk about, and these two other programs were released a while ago. With the changes, they may not be 100% applicable for you any longer, but I do want to make you aware that they're out there. So one is called the SBA Bridge Loan, and it is again through an SBA sponsored approved lender. And that's where you file for that, and you can get up to $25,000, 7-year term, and it expires September 30th, 2020. Now, the idea of that bridge loan is that you would then repay with that bridge loan. When you get your monies from the PPP, you would repay the bridge loan immediately from there. So it's more of a timing issue of getting cash in, is the situation here. Or if it's an EIDL loan also, it doesn't have to be PPP, but an EIDL loan, when you get that, you can then repay the bridge loan. Again, as I say, it's through the SBA approved lenders, and as Rodney already mentioned, you have to have an existing relationship. The second piece is called the SBA Debt Relief, and this is really applicable for companies that presently, for the most part, have presently loans with the SBA through their 7(a) loan program. So under this program, the SBA will pay the principal and interest of new loans that they've issued to you prior to September 27, 2020. All right, so it could be unrelated to the PPP. It could be, but it's going to be, the principal and interest will be paid by the SBA. The SBA will pay the principal and interest of current loans for a period of 6 months. So if you have an SBA loan that you took out 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or last month before this happened, the SBA will pay, I should say, not defer, but pay the principal and interest for those loans for a period of 6 months. In order to get relief through this SBA debt relief, you need to work through the SBA approved lender that you worked through to get the loans originally. With that is really our, besides our contact information, whatever, which we'll show here in a second, is really the end of our formal, if you want to think of it this way, presentation. Again, I would encourage you, and I see there's a lot of questions coming in, I would encourage you to enter your questions in through the chat feature, and again, also through the Q&A feature. But before we get to questions, let's just kind of review the contact information that we have available. So I'll turn it back over to you, Rodney.
Okay, so we are certainly anxious to help and willing to help, and the way to reach us is you can certainly go to our website. Our website is tarrantsbdc.org. That's tarrantsbdc.org. Once you get to the site, there will be a couple of options there. As to, if you're wanting standard business support, then there's a button there. But if you want support specifically to the COVID-19, there's a button there click that button, fill out the form, and we'll get in touch with you and schedule an appointment as quickly as possible. We can also be reached at 817-515-2603. Now, in addition to that, if you are outside of the Tarrant County area, please feel free to contact us and we can point you to a center close to you, or you can reach out to our North Texas SBDC by going to their website at ntsbdc.org. That's ntsbdc.org. And their phone number is 214-860-5831.
And from a SCORE perspective, if SCORE Fort Worth, and that's basically for the most part Tarrant, Johnson, Parker counties, you can reach us at area code 817-871-6002. Again, 817-871-6002, or at fortworth.score.org. If you are in Dallas, Collin, Denton County, you can reach out to SCORE Dallas, which is area code 214-987-9491. Again, area code 214-987-9491, or at dallas.score.org. If you happen to not be in any of those counties, feel free to reach back to the SCORE Fort Worth contact information, and we'll direct you to the correct resource. Again, if you're looking for mentoring, like an appointment to talk through it, again, reach out to us and we'll try to set that up with our volunteers. So with that, Jenny, I'm going to ask you to start talking, giving us some of the questions that are coming in through chat. Jenny?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone had a question. They applied last week. They completed about 3/4 of the application and they saved the information. That's the next time they logged in, they couldn't log in anymore. They have an application number, so is that number still valid?
So I'm assuming they applied for the EIDL with that question?
Yes.
And I think we pointed out on the slides here is that the system, as of Monday morning, the system for applying EIDL changed 100%. Okay, the old system was crashing, was not, wasn't used to the demand they had, so they streamlined the whole process. So this is now the recommendation we're getting. So even if you have a loan ID number from last week, still apply under the new system this week. And this at the bottom is actually the link to go right to that, to go and to apply for that. I know it's duplication, but what its advantage to you is that last week there was not the emergency grant available. This week there is, and if you want to take advantage of that emergency grant dollars, you need to reapply. Again, it's a 3-page application. To me, it seems pretty simple, but that's to me. But I would reapply, SBA website, and ask definitely for the emergency loan grant.
Okay, next question. I know that independent contractors, sole proprietors can apply for the PPP. What documentation will they have to provide at the end to request loan forgiveness, since they will not have a traditional check stub?
I don't think, because that's being, you're applying through the SBA approved banks, we don't necessarily have all those details yet. Obviously, there's going to be some details required, but I don't think we're equipped to answer that question today.
Okay. For the PPP, is the 2.5 times payroll the total amount you can apply for, or is that the amount you can apply for each of the 4.5 months covered by the PPP?
Rodney?
Okay, so that is that's the formula that they use to calculate what the loan amount should be, and it is based off of a month, the average month for the previous period, be it 2019 or whatever, or previous quarter. But they're looking for the average monthly, and that is the amount that you can apply for. So that individual month multiplied by 2.5 will give you what that total amount is.
Okay, if the PPP is allowed to cover rent and utilities, but 2.5 times average payroll is much lower than that, how do those costs get included in the application?
You know, I'll start that answer. I think that's where you need to sit down and do the math for the EIDL and for the PPP. Because I think it's important for you to get a feeling that the loan amount for PPP is 2.5 times payroll. And really the focus there is really paychecks. They're trying to protect paychecks. The PPP, and again, I'm not trying to make any recommendations here, but based on the logic I'm following here in the math, seems to makes more sense for smaller businesses with a lot of employees. All right, so they can get that loan amount up. But you're right. When you apply for a PPP, you actually, because you're restricted by your payroll amount, you're actually just covering payroll costs, possibly not your operating costs. Now you do have the advantage to apply for EIDL to cover your operating costs also, and then just cover your payroll costs on the PPP. But really evaluate this and do the math on each one of these to determine what makes most sense. Work with your accountant, work with your lawyer, and that will probably give you more of a direction.
Okay. Is the EIDL grant for 2 months of expenses, or is it for the entire period of the coronavirus impacts?
The EIDL grant is based off of, it's decided by the SBA case manager what that amount is, and it is based off of the information you supply within that application. So I think, I don't have the application in front of me, but it is based off of an assumption of about a 4-month period, I believe. But don't quote me on that one, but it's assuming a certain period. Now, if this goes on, again, with an EIDL, you can go back and ask for more monies because let's say it's gone on longer. So you can get additional dollars. I don't know if the grant monies will be available then, but at least from the loan amount standpoint, that will be available.
Okay. Is payroll for a self-employed all of the normal owner draw or based on the average monthly draw for 2019?
I don't know if I understand the term draw, but it's basically your income, you know, what you're living on. You just need to average that per month. So take your earnings from your IRS, I should say your tax returns. What was your gross income based on your working, not necessarily interest, dividends, but what your working working wages were. That's the best I can answer that, knowing what I know.
And the only thing I'm going to add to that, and as well as a couple of the questions before, when you're getting down into some of those specific details, by all means, please feel free to reach out, and I encourage you to reach out to your CPA and your accountants to help make sure that they are giving you the best guidance concerning draws, concerning expenditures, concerning what goes in and what's not. So again, we're going to encourage you to talk to your financial experts local to you to make sure you have the best information.
Okay, next question. How do you verify the average monthly employee count?
Well, when the loan is made, or before the loan is made, you will have a case manager. And the case manager is going to have some procedures and processes and checkpoints along the way. So I'm assuming that they're going to look at what happens on day one, and I'm sure that as they're getting the information, as you're providing the information, somewhere in there is going to calculate what is your head count at a specific point in time. And then when that time frame is over, when that 8 weeks is over or thereabouts, they're going to ask you again, what is that head count? So that's how the process is being explained. But the case manager, the person who's involved in your loan, will probably play a very pivotal role in understanding whether or not you've been able to sustain your employee base or whether you have not been able to do that.
Okay, next question. I own a medical practice and most of the people that work here are independent contractors and only make a portion of what they bring into the practice. Would the amount that I pay them be allowed to be used for the PPP program?
Okay, to my understanding, the answer to that is yes. It is full-time employees, part-time employees, and others, which would include 1099ers.
Okay. I am an employee of an LLC that I also am a co-owner of. Do I qualify for PPP?
I see Linda is on. Linda, would you like to answer that one?
Okay, what is the question again? Can you repeat that?
I am an employee of an LLC that I also am a co-owner of. Do I qualify for PPP?
The LLC would be the entity. I don't believe that you would qualify individually, but what's your ownership percentage in the entity?
Well, put it like this here, the percentage, put it like this here, if I'm not mistaken, the application is collecting data from anyone who has more than 20% ownership in the entity.
So was she asking in terms of being
Linda, we don't
counted?
know. We just have to assume. So
Okay.
we don't have that interaction going here. So.
Okay.
Next question, are Social Security and Medicare taxes and IRA matches paid by employer included in the payroll calculations?
Rodney, do you
To
have
my understanding, they are. They're part of the payroll costs. So to my understanding, yes, they are.
EIDL, we are an LLC that files as an S Corp. Do I choose LLC or S Corp?
Again, it depends on what loan application, and we're not the experts on filling out the loans necessarily, but I believe on EIDL, it asks you what type of company you are, and that you would be an LLC. And then once you get into it, then it's going to ask you, are you an S Corp, C Corp, whatever, in that questionnaire. So you're,
Agreed.
I believe, if I remember it correctly, that it just asks you what you are, and you would go under an LLC initially. S Corp, whatever, is more for tax purposes than for entity.
Correct.
Okay. Do we know yet if any 1099 wages are going to be eligible for relief if I paid during February 15th and June 30th period under the PPP program?
I think as we've stated, 1099s are included.
So the EIDL application asks for total employees as of 1/31/20. I have 3 employees with a last date of 1/31. Do I include them in the number of employees as of 1/31?
Jenny, can you give that question to me again? I don't know if I caught that.
Application asks for total employees as of January 31st. I have 3 employees with a last day of January 31st. Do I include them in the number of employees as of January 31st?
Answer.
Well,
go ahead, Bob.
My answer would be yes, since they're on your books on 31st. 31st was their last day, is what I'm assuming.
My answer would be exactly the same as Bob. The answer is yes.
Okay. If unemployment is taken for the staff, is this considered a loan, or can both unemployment and PPP be taken?
That's one I'm going to turn over to Linda. Linda, can you help with that one?
You know, I have to say I'm not the expert on that one, but the unemployment, are you talking about the unemployment tax or the
unemployment benefits, Linda? Unemployment benefits.
Yeah, I think that's separate. That's separate. That's my understanding is that it's separate.
So I think, I mean, just so we're very honest up here, I think the government has decided we're going to take off the guardrails here in regards to compliance between all these different programs. Their intent is to get the monies out there. I don't think their intent is for the double dipping necessarily, if they're taking unemployment and then also, so they're not working for you, and then on top of it, then you're going to ask for PPP on their salary. I don't think there's any way to monitor whether you're doing that or not. I think you know, when you apply for your application to the bank, if it's PPP, I think you're going to be asked to certify these numbers and feel comfortable with them. So I don't think there's any process that's going to stop that. I don't think that's the intent necessarily.
I would agree with that, but I would also throw one more thing out there as wind to the caution, or caution to the wind. And that is that while we all are very much inundated with everything that's going on, please know that one day soon, all of these systems are going to be realigned and reconnected. So if there is funds that are that is considered maybe double dipping or whatever, there may be a day when people are asked to justify why they got what they got or how they got what they got. So I would be very careful. The system is not intended to have people come out whole, and especially businesses, to come out ahead of where they are. The intent is to allow businesses to sustain during the coronavirus. And I think that goes for the individuals as well. So,
Rodney, I wholeheartedly agree that double dipping is something you want to avoid. I'm not sure I understood the question in the beginning, but at any rate, Rodney is correct, and there are systems in place. We can't include in one program something that's already been compensated in another. In the disaster loan programs, it's for uncompensated damages. And Rodney, you're just spot on that, to be careful about to not double dip, because there will be systems in place, and there's, Inspector General and all kinds of things that look at these after the fact. And I think that's something that you have to keep in mind. The object is to not be made not only whole, but more than whole. That's not allowed in federal programs. So.
I got a few questions here, Jenny. Let me pick up on a few, huh?
Okay.
BP, I have an employee that I laid off already, but she has a new job already. Can I hire a new employee and still qualify for the forgiveness? Yes, you can.
yes.
Just looking at total employee count, not the specific employees.
Good.
Does the PPP cover the owner of the small business salary as well? Or is it only applicable to other staff? No, it covers all salaries of everyone in the company. Jenny, back to you.
Okay. For those, let's see. I work for a 501c6 nonprofit Chamber of Commerce. Do we qualify for any of these programs?
Our understanding is that the only ones that qualify are the 501c3s, nonprofits.
Okay. For the PPP on payroll calculation, do we include contract labor, subcontractors pay? I have seen something including contractor labor allowed from February 15th to June 30, expected payment due.
Our understanding is that, yes, those are inclusive. They're allowed to be included.
What can be included in the payroll cost calculation? Can you include employer paid health benefits, employer funded retirement benefits, and etc.?
Yes, you include all that.
If you're furlough employees now and bring them back mid-June, then apply for the CARES loan, will your loan still be forgiven as long as they are back for 8 weeks after you apply?
Yes, but again, I would just ask you and I know it's tough as a small business owner, that in the spirit of what's being done here, you bring them back sooner than that. But yes, you have until the end of June.
Well, and let me throw out the caveat there to that question, because I may have heard that question differently. The key here is that from the point that the loan is originated, from the date that loan is originated, then you have 8 weeks as a counting calendar to maintain those employees. So if the loan is originated, say in late June or mid-June, as was stated in the question, then it's 8 weeks after that period in time. But if it's approved, say back in March or in April, and you don't rehire them to June, then it does not qualify.
Okay, here's a long one. A large number of our employees are part-time high school students who will not be returning to work because they're going to college. How would this affect the PPP when they're looking at payroll numbers? If I hire additional people so my head count remains the same, does that meet the requirements?
Yes, it does. That is the main thing that you're looking to do, is to maintain a number of headcounts. It's not by name or social security number. It is the number of employees that you have. So if you replace them, you're good. If you don't replace them, then that's not what the intent of the program is.
Okay. Do all owners of the company need to be on the application, or just those with 20% or more ownership?
As I understand it, it's 20% or more.
If someone takes advantage of the SBA relief and lets the SBA pay the principal for the next 6 months, does that have to be paid back, and when?
It would probably be added to the backside of the loan. So if you got a 6-month deferral or 1-year deferral, it would go to the backside of the terms of that loan.
Okay. For the PPP, can workers' compensation insurance be included in payroll costs?
I believe that is correct. I believe it can.
If a laid off employee does not want to come back, can I hire a new employee and still qualify for loan forgiveness under PPP?
Yes.
Now I got a few questions here, Jenny. Does my independent contractors count as an employee, as I typically have 2 throughout the year? Yes. Will these loans approved vendor, well, let me rephrase that. Will these SBA approved vendor be able to charge more interest on loans than the 3.75% and the 5.5%? So the 3.75% is not coming from the SBA approved vendors. 3.75% is coming from the SBA, and that's a fixed number. Understanding that the banks are not able to negotiate a rate upward from the 0.5%. Other questions you have, Jenny?
Yes. Independent contractor with no employees and limited operating costs, that is in the travel industry, dealing with dozens of cancellations and travel restrictions. I'm mostly interested in relief from lost revenue. Would this be through the EIDL grant?
Yes, it would be through, that's an appropriate application for EIDL as opposed to the Paycheck Protection. So if you don't have employees, then Paycheck Protection really is not going to be of benefit to you. But the first of all, the EIDL would be a beneficial. The $10,000 grant, EIDL grant, would be beneficial. And if necessary, you could even look at the express loans for $25,000. So there are other packages out there, but you have to decide what's best for you. But if you don't have employees, then Paycheck Protection may not be the correct solution for you.
But I think if for you, the only employee, I think if there is forgiveness, maybe it's up to 25% of it. So if you are that one employee as the owner, I think that there is some forgiveness in the PPP as I understand it. But again, all this information is very new to all of us.
Okay, there's someone asking if you can speak on having employers file for unemployment versus staying on PPP funds.
I'll take that. I mean, we're not really qualified to talk about unemployment. We're really focused towards loan assistance. So I think you need to look as a business owner. I mean, your employees need to look at unemployment. You need to understand what it is and decide what is the best approach here, whether they take unemployment or you bring them back to work under the PPP program. But you need to decide that as the owner of the business.
Okay. Can you use both loan types as long as they are for different purposes?
Yes.
Yes.
Are leases on equipment included in the PPP forgiveness criteria?
I don't think so.
Well, some
Robbie,
leases
would be a
are
debt,
actually, some of them are actual debt instruments. I think it's likely that it is, and it's a cost you couldn't meet otherwise,
Okay.
such as rent. But I think it would be, but that's fine tuning a question for a loan officer, actually.
Okay. Bob, how long do you want me to just continue? I have
Well, I think we have what Well, we're at the top of the hour. Let's take just a few more questions. We're at the top of the hour, and then we'll, again, I want to reiterate, as Rodney has a few times, that we're trying to get some of the questions answered. Reach out to, SBDC Tarrant County, or reach out to SCORE Fort Worth, and we'll connect you with our people, our mentors, our advisors, to help you walk through any specific questions you might have. But let's do a couple more, Jenny, and then we'll follow.
Is there any information on the timing of the disbursements of the 10,000 advance on the EIDL and or PPP once it's available?
Okay, so I can take the 10,000. The goal that the SBA had was to try to disperse that those funds into through a direct deposit within 3 working days or 3 business days. And reports that we're receiving from those who are receiving these funds is that it is happening at that pace, if not a little faster. So that is that time frame. So as far as the EIDL is concerned, and Bob, I'll let you or Linda confirm that, but it's going into the process, and the goal is to try to have an answer within 2 to 3 weeks.
I agree with that. The goal is 2 weeks, but right now it's probably going to be running around 3 or 4. It's hard to say exactly.
Jenny, last one.
Where can people find approved loan sources?
Linda?
Well, that PPP program is a joint program. Even the Treasury is involved in that, and I believe that there are even some lenders in there that may not necessarily be SBA lenders. So, so at any rate, was the question of where do we find all those lenders? Was that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think we're directing, what I see in all the literature is directing people to go back to their bank where they have a relationship to see if they are currently on the program. There's a lot of lenders that are wanting to join in on this and be involved. SBA is just one agency that's really involved in all of that, but there is an onboarding process to add lenders. So I would start right now with where you're currently banking and see if they are on the list for or if they're approved to do the PPP loans.
Now there's
Linda,
there's
do
one
you
other
not have
source.
the capability on the SBA website for them to look up the lenders?
You can look up at current SBA lenders, yes.
Yeah, that's the
But
question.
I think that they're also asking if they're going to be involved in that PPP program. So I think that's why the literature is directing them to their current bank. But yes, if you want to go to sba.gov /TX/Dallas, and you scroll down the page, you look for more additional resources, you'll see our loan volume report on there, and you'll see which SBA lenders are making the most regular SBA loans. And so those are lenders that are pretty familiar with SBA lending. So that would be a good place, or go on that same site and look in our resource guide. It's a PDF. You can pull that up. There's a whole section on SBA lenders.
All right. Number one, I want to thank everybody for attending and taking their time. Hopefully this session has been beneficial for them. Again, reach out to SCORE, reach out to SBDC for additional help that you might have. We will be sending out to everybody that registered for this webinar a copy of this presentation sometime today. We obviously encourage you to reach out to us to connect. We, as a group, we want you to all be safe. And we want to know that we're here to help small businesses. So please reach out. We thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.